Hi, this is Steve. I want to show you how easy it is to use the purchase order functionality within Dynamics GP. We're going to look at entering purchase orders, receiving those purchase orders, and then invoicing those purchase order receipts. So let's take a look at it. The first thing I want to do is go to the purchasing area page and enter a purchase order. So go up to transactions, purchase order entry. So this is the main purchase order entry screen. We can look up existing purchase orders by clicking on the magnifying glass and seeing all the orders that we have already, or we can simply start a new purchase order. So let's go ahead and do that. The system will automatically assign a purchase order number. We can skip the buyer ID, but you can set those up if you'd like to. We'll go over to the vendor ID here, and then we can do a lookup. We can find the vendor that we want to purchase items from. And this is the header of the purchase order. Now we can tab down into the body and the detail of the purchase order. And here we can enter non-inventoried items, or we can look up items in our inventory and assign those into the PO. So let's take a look at assigning an inventory item into the PO. We can take a look from the magnifying glass here. And I'm going to look up this item here. Select this item here and tab off it and put the quantity that I want to order. The system's automatically going to go back and look at the last time that I bought this specific item from the vendor and give me that price. I can accept that price or I can change it. Let's tab further over to the site ID. I must put a warehouse location or a site ID in this field here. So I'll take a look and look up one. And I'm going to use my main warehouse location, which is this one here. And that's it. I can enter as many detail lines as I want to. And like I said, I can put non-inventory items there if I want to as well. I can examine the line detail if I select that line and then go up to this tab here, Item Detail. And that'll show me all the information about this particular line in the PO. You can see that it automatically gets the GL account from the way that this item is set up in inventory. We can also print this PO by clicking on the print icon right here. It asks me to save the document, and it's going to print it out. I'll print it right to the screen. I can also send these via email if I want to. So next, let's take a look at receiving that PO. So there's a couple ways you can receive it. You can receive it from the purchasing area page, or you can look up the purchase order and receive it from there. So what I like to do is use these browser buttons in the lower left hand side of the windows and hit the last record. And this should be the last PO that you entered. So let's take a look at that. And then what I want to do is I want to take an action on that. So these are the possible actions I have. I can receive the PO, and I can receive and invoice it at the same time, or I can invoice the PO items. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to receive those PO items in. It's going to create a receiving transaction for me automatically. A little wizard will come up, will help me select which items I actually want to receive. And I ordered 10, a quantity of 10 in this, and I don't have to receive all those. Say, for example, I ordered 10, but I only received 9. I can just put the amount that I received in. It's going to leave the remaining amount on the PO. So I'm going to receive that in. It's going to fill out the receiving transaction for me. You can see that I'm only receiving 9 of these items. And then if I want to, I can put these in a batch, or I can post them online in real time. I'm just going to post this online in real time. But before I do that, let's take a look at the distributions. If I hit the distributions tab at the top here, this is going to show me the accounts that are going to be used when this transaction is posted to the general ledger. And you can see that the debit is to the debit account that was in the purchase order line detail, but the credit is not to accounts payable, it's to an accrued purchases account. This accrued purchases account will be cleared out when I enter the vendor's invoice against this particular receipt. So let's go ahead and post this transaction. Again, this is a receiving document on a purchase order. So I'm going to post that. And when I post that, in this case, this is an inventory item. It's going to update inventory. It's going to create all the general ledger transactions to support that transaction. It's also going to create an uninvoiced receipt in my system. So next, let's invoice that receipt. I'm going to go back to that PO again. and I'm going to invoice the PO items. A little wizard comes up and shows me the items that I have received but not yet invoiced. So I'm going to select this item here, and I received 9 items in, but let's say, for example, that I only received an invoice for 8 of those items. I'm going to change the actual invoice amount to 8 because that's what the invoice is for. And if I want to change the price, I can do that here. So for example, let's say that I got a price reduction here from the vendor. I can enter that here, and now that will go into my accounts payable as $3.20 per item. It will also adjust the open receipts on that and make the according adjustment. So here's my purchasing invoice entry screen. It has the 8 items that I'm being invoiced for and the new price. You can see that there's a little indicator that the price has changed from what the PO was. I'm going to enter the vendor document number, which is the vendor's invoice number right here. And now I have a complete transaction. So these are the general ledger distributions that are going to be used when this invoice transaction is posted into GP. And you can see that it's going to adjust the price actually on the inventory for that little price change from the vendor. It's going to credit accounts payable, and then it's going to clear out the accrued purchases. So what's nice about GP is it will automatically keep track of accrued purchases and adjust as needed. So here's the invoicing transaction. And once I post this, it's going to update accounts payable for this new vendor's invoice. It's going to make the price adjustment in inventory, and it's going to clear out the purchase receipts for the right amount, and it's going to create all the general ledger transaction entries for it. So let's go ahead and post that. And that's a quick overview of purchase orders in Dynamics GP. We entered a purchase order, we received that purchase order, and then we invoiced that purchase order based on the vendor's invoice.